ready for some Bengals news? At the Growler, we got you. Hot takes, interviews from your host, Paul Dano Jr.
All right, welcome into this week's Rewatch reaction show. Paul Dano Jr. here with the esteemed Charlie Goldsmith. What's up, Charlie?
Esteemed, but hopefully not estimate the Broncos running back who had a very bad game. Two very opposite things. Esteemed, not estimate.
Look, a tough joke to pull off right at the top of the show. I'm going to admit it, but you went for it, and I appreciate bold, aggressive play, just like we saw against the Broncos from the Bengals offense. But we've got lots of stuff we want to get into in this game. Of course, everybody that knows now, we love doing these rewatch reactions as we go through NFL Pro and see what stood out to us from some more granular spots here. And this was one that, honestly, there's a lot of sand. There's a lot of granular that's around here. It's a whole beach of granular right now that you could go into, but we've picked a few specific ones, maybe that are under discussed, which is hard to imagine considering a couple places that we're going to go, but it might be the case. I do want to remind everybody that we have had such a great time down at our live shows all year. We wrapped up our last one down at BetMGM Nation Kitchen and Bar down at the Banks. But just because we're not doing live shows down there right now doesn't mean you can't still go down there. Any big event, they've got all the TVs, delicious food, drinks, deals, everything else you could ever want. Make sure you are spending your big game experience down at BetMGM Nation Kitchen and Bar, right down there at the Banks, right down near Charlie. Charlie, you're down there.
I got a turkey burger
that's down there.
I got a turkey burger there yesterday and watched part of the Giants game as they got the kick return coming out of halftime.
Unbelievable. What a great view you had for a big moment potentially in the Bengals season. Quick update, by the way, on the playoff possibilities and the whole layout. But just you're listening to this, you're like, get to the rewatch. But look, we got to kick the news to you real quick because tomorrow, me and Jay will be back kind of going deeper into this weekend's Steelers. The Bengals will play at 8 o'clock in Pittsburgh on Saturday night. If they win, they will have to wait until Sunday afternoon in the 4 o'clock window for Denver and Kansas City, as well as Miami and the Jets, both to finish. If the Jets can win and the Chiefs can win, the Bengals are in. That's the layout of it at this point. They'll have to sit and wait. That's if they can beat the Steelers in another one of these delightful AFC North divisional primetime road games that they keep getting put into that have been such a struggle for teams in this division. But, who's complaining, Charlie? Five primetime road games for us this year. My favorite setup. I'm a Sunday at one guy. I've never hid this. I repeat it often. 5 more than ever. We had to be subjected to primetime road games. Just the worst.
I'd like to riff and banter and make a joke about your previous point about all the situations and stuff. Like, all right, the Chiefs, right? They're looking ahead to the playoffs. They're resting their starters. They're not really invested in this game. Carson Wentz is very invested in this game, and so is Zach Taylor. Zach should send his brother Press all the notes on the Broncos that he, figured out. They threw for 400 yards last week. Press worked with Carson the whole time in Philadelphia. Press and Carson are best of buds. Carson's got a lot on the line. Zach's got a lot on the line. Zach should go through Press, give Carson everything he needs to know, make sure he's got all the info he needs to shred that Broncos secondary. This is what I would be focusing on if I were the head coach of an NFL football team. And maybe this is why I'm not a head coach of an NFL football team, but alas.
Well, it's a great point you make, though. A motivated quarterback who has some talent and has been kind of hanging out underneath Andy Reid for a year is a dangerous thing against a Denver secondary that has certainly had its issues outside of their number one corner. So that's interesting as well. I have no hope on the Jets game, though. I don't know what to say other than that team has clearly quit. They have no hope. Maybe it'll be cold. It'll be cold. And then you say, well, things happen sometimes. That's as far as I can go in terms of if Bengals fans are looking for hope involving Miami going to the Jets. It could be no Tua again, possibly. Maybe Aaron Rodgers takes just the right cocktail of drugs before the game to set himself up. I don't know.
Twitter's telling me that if the Jets continue to stay this bad, that Sauce Gardner is now going to join T. Higgins on the Bengals, apparently. That's what he's tweeting about, telling T to not go to New York. So
how are they going to pay
always a good
T?
time.
Yeah, tired. How are they going to pay T? Wired. How are they going to pay T and sauce? Right there we go.
Yeah.
Now we're next. All right. On that note, Charlie, where'd you start?
Yeah, the story of the game, T. Higgins, the trio, what a moment. A Saturday night, I don't think any of us will ever forget. But I think what kind of flew under the radar was just how unbelievable Joe Burrow was. Like, we're having the MVP debate, the case for Lamar, the case for Josh Allen, these incredible extended explosive plays, arm strength, all these incredible things they can do. But if you're just talking about the art of quarterbacking, I don't think there's any doubt that Joe Burrow is just the best in the NFL at the art of quarterbacking. The way it was so much fun just going through the tiny, tiny details, the signals he gave out pre-snap, the tells he got, the way Burrow used motion to his advantage over the course of the game, the way that you could tell the play was one thing in a couple situations. Burrow's like, I'm doing this. You saw the greediness. The back shoulder ball to Jamar against Surtain might have been like the best back shoulder rep I've ever seen at any level. It should be teach tape for how you run that play for the next 50 years. And my favorite play of the game actually was Burrow calling the speed option, and literally you can see him telling Khalil Herbert what to do because Khalil hasn't gotten to that page of the playbook yet. So it was just, again, the art of quarterbacking at the highest level. You saw Vance Joseph trying everything. And he just had no answer for Joe Burrow.
No, and let's dive into a couple of examples and a couple of plays here, Charlie. And reminder to everybody, if you listen in your audio, we're still talking through it here for you, but recommend the YouTube page as we go through a few of these plays and kind of talk through them. So go subscribe to the Growler Podcast on YouTube. All right, let's pop up one. This one might be the most forgotten because it didn't count. And this was a touchdown that he throws to Andre Yosivas. And then it gets called back because of a legal motion with two men in motion. But let's set this up here. You end up with Gesicki comes in motion. Chase Brown went across, and then Gesicki kind of takes his time and doesn't set. And that's why the flag comes out. But then this play unfolds.
So my favorite part where it starts is a hand signal from Burrow to Yosivas. Burrow knows exactly what he's seeing. He makes sure he gets his young receiver on exactly the pace he needs to be at to create something that explosive. You see the Broncos send a free blitzer out of the slot, the exact concept that the Chiefs killed the Bengals with in the fourth quarter of that Week 2 game. The Bengals didn't have the answer then. They did this time, and you saw Burrow's strength shaking off the sack in the pocket. The strength is such an underrated element of his game. There was also some pressure coming from the right side, like Burrow's shaking off one sack while he also maneuvers himself away from another pressure. My favorite part about this play is how quickly he flips the switch from evade escape mode to throw mode. 1 second, it's literally one freeze frame as I went through it kind of second or millisecond by millisecond, which we won't do here, but it's literally one freeze frame of Burrow holding onto the ball, protect it with two hands, shake off the sack to reach back, fire, strike to Yosivas. And he has to make a tough throw there too. The linebackers are kind of creeping over the middle. He gets it over them, and he also leads Yosivas down the field. The ball placement sets him up for that yards after the catch opportunity. Just a million different things that, it's kind of just a 10-yard pass, but the art of quarterbacking at the highest level was all on display.
How does he see him?
That's
you know what I mean? So like he shakes it off. I'm pausing this here. He shakes off a tackler that's about to throw him to the ground and looks up and it's chaos in front of him. There's 1, 2, 3 players in his view, and Yoshi is sort of running behind him. He's still recovering from shaking off the tackle and just pulls up and wings a ball to the point that you're wondering, was that even meant for him? Because it could have been going somewhere else because he comes across the other direction, and the throw as he rips it here is just that's just silly execution. And yet all for naught, but it's the type of level of quarterback you see. It's the point. It's the point of what he's doing. Let's go to another one, and I titled this T silly because if you may have even seen this at this point. It's another play where Burrow's able to take a hit, and he threads a 3rd and 9 to T Higgins along the outside. This was in the fourth quarter, and it's just not the type of play that you see quarterbacks be able to pull off.
What I love about this play is the mechanics of just if you look at the way he threw the ball, almost identical to the mechanics he had on his famous famous Raiders whistle touchdown in the playoffs to Tyler Boyd, except that Burrow had a bunch of space. Boyd had a bunch of space. This, he makes that jump throw as he takes a massive hit, and he fires it with the velocity to fit the throw unbelievably between two defenders. Like, he sneaks it in there by throwing his fastball as hard as he can throw it in his best Hunter Green impression. And this is just a lot of the stuff Burrow doesn't get credit for. The strength, the aggression, like this is Josh Allen stuff, I think would be the best way to explain this. The jump pass with velocity between defenders. Also, what a rep by T. Higgins to legally shove the corner to the ground because he's T. Higgins and he's Shaq, according to Mike Tomlin. This rep left such an impression on the Broncos that after this play, they're like, all right, now we'll finally switch Surtain on to T. Higgins because, even though, they were that scared of Jamar that they hadn't done it already. But I guess this was the straw that broke the camel's back. But again, the strength through the hip between the defenders. Also, Jamar taking the two safeties at the top of the screen. They were so scared of him all day, helping create that gravity. To me, this is the best play that encapsulates the trio working together, all making each other better.
Yeah, it's so true. And you can do all you want. It's just you never have that final answer when they have all of those guys out there together. And Burrow, it's what I think is interesting, each year we see this piece of his game grow. It was his processing into checkdowns and a better understanding of when to do that. And we talked so much about that back in 22. And then, you saw the playmaking. He didn't have much time to get into it last year, but you started to see a little bit of the playmaking stuff that you wanted to see from him. And then this year you saw the strength and the off-platform version of the playmaking and this downhill attacking of the pocket when he breaks it and less going outside, and willingness to just take those hits and shrug those off and make these throws from all these different angles, whether it's Superman, whether it's jump pass, whether it's to the side. Arm angles were not always his thing. And he kind of said that over the last month, like, look, I feel like I've become a great playmaker. And that's true. I think previously was a great quarterback, and he was a great processor, and he's a great decision maker, and he had great feel for the pocket, and he made plays. But now he's become this just elite playmaker. And you see this over and over again, even in the small ways or ways that are forgotten due to penalty week in and week out. It does a little bit go underappreciated because it's almost mundane. It's you're stunned when it doesn't happen or a bad decision is like a bad decision. You so rarely see it.
Just in full control. And again, it was so many subtle little things too that you wouldn't even think of, from the ball placement, the way he led several receivers into yards after the catch opportunities with where he placed the ball. There was a third down conversion to Chase Brown like that. The big 38-yard throw to Jamar. I mean, that's another one. Like, Vance Joseph was thinking with that play call, I got the cover 3 call I've been saving all game. And this is what's going to force Burrow into a bad mistake. And the play actually looked just like that touchdown to Jamar against basically the same look, crossing over the middle with then the yak against the Ravens on the road. Burrow just waits. He has to buy time in the pocket because he's not getting much of it, because this line is the reason that the Bengals will probably lose if they make it to the playoffs and don't advance, because this line is crumbling right now, just like the 2022 offense in the postseason. But, Burrow gets that cover 3 look, and he goes, I know exactly what my answer is. Here you go, and I'm going to do 4 more things to make it an even more impressive play. And after that, Vance Joseph just gave up. He's like, all right, I'm just going to blitz you. Hopefully the line malfunctions, which it did a couple times. But then Burrow just shredded the blitz, like a big 3rd and 6 to Jamar against a massive blitz to set up the sneak, really the Chase Brown run into the sneak, like just all game doing stuff. He turned a screen. He's had a screen, and then he's like, wait, Yoshivas. And instead of throwing the screen, he's like, just make the throw to Yoshivas crossing over the middle. Like, he just did a million things like that over the course of this game.
No doubt. Elite performance once again. 8 in a row at 250 and 3 touchdowns. Never before. We talk a lot about how well he plays at the end of seasons and how he just elevates his game as he banks all these seasons worth of reps and has a better understanding of what's around him and what he's getting every week and what his answers are. It just shows every year when he makes it to this part of the season, he's just so damn dangerous because he's just got everything banked and he has an answer immediately ready to go in the moment, no matter how crazy that moment is every single time. unbelievable game from Burrow, which you're right. Like we spent a ton of time talking about T and we talked about Jamar and the records and everything else. Like it's almost like it gets old hat to talk about this stuff that we're seeing from Burrow. All right, let's flip sides. So positive offense, you know me, negative defense, right? The defense was good. Okay. The defense was better. They were what they needed to be at this point. Okay, they need it. Can you just give up 24 and not 34? Right? I mean, that's what we've been saying all
Story
year
of the season.
about the story of the season, and it was the story of this game. They gave up 24 and not 34. Kudos to them. What they did in overtime was a game changer. It makes you think what the impact of that is even beyond this game. The fact of what they did in those 6 plays in overtime. That said, I want to point out those plays in overtime before we go giving too much credit. Okay, and remember what we were saying. Bo Nix is better. He's still a rookie quarterback. He still doesn't have all of the polish that you see when you play these top-end teams. So 2 third downs. Let's talk about this. The first one was a deep shot. Marco Wilson is out here on the bottom of your screen. He's wide open. Okay. I mean, Geno Stone isn't going to get over there. Okay. That's not happening. Marco Wilson, who's in the game, which by the way, I left the personnel package up here on this video because I want to talk about that too. This personnel package they went to with 3 down linemen, ADG, 3 safeties, and 4 corners. They went to this a bunch in passing situations, and we hadn't seen this from them. And it was, I think there was an indictment on a couple of people in these packages. Jermaine Pratt in coverage, Miles Murphy as a pass rusher, right? The ones that stand out that maybe are no longer a part of it. And Miles Murphy's reps and Cedric Johnson's reps in this game. Also another story, as Cedric Johnson kind of took over a bunch of snaps in the second half after he got that sack. But you watch this ball down here and you see it. I mean, it's open. A good quarterback, a quarterback who's on it, he hits this pass. I mean, this is ball game. This is tie, right? This is it. I mean, you're talking about a massive play in this game on 3rd down that's wide open and he can't hit it. Is that the defense playing better? There's no pass rush. Would you expect one from 3 guys? I know I'm not saying that that's going to happen, but that's what they left themselves open to. And it's Marco Wilson, but that's what was set up. That was the call. The call was Marco Wilson going one-on-one and he got killed. Okay. But Bo Nix couldn't make the throw. So yes, it's a stop, but is it? You know what I mean? Like, how do you judge that when it was wide open and you made the quarterback make a tough throw and he couldn't do it? That's one. Let's go to another one here. And this is, again, another 3rd down. And you have this ball goes down in between 2 receivers that
both
are both
open.
Crossing. Watch the cross here. I'm going to pause this. Okay. So this is 3rd down. This is 3rd down in the overtime. This is, again, ball game play. This is, they get this. They're going to the playoffs with a tie. Okay. And they run these 2 crossers on purpose into this open space, and they both get open. Okay, here I go. Let's play it. Boom. They're both open. Okay, 1 and 2 are both. There's nobody in the space in front of them. They have coverage 2-3 yards. I don't know how many yards the back guy is there behind him. It's wide open. Bo Nix rushes the throw, not because of pressure. There really isn't pressure. He just rushes the throw a little bit, gets his footwork off, and he bounces it between the 2 of them. Those are open. That's wide open. That's Denver getting exactly what they want. Watch the crossers. Denver getting exactly what they want there. Okay? And Bo Nix couldn't make the play, and the Bengals get the stop. And I'm not disparaging what they were doing. They made plays, way more plays than they have been. You see that. But also, how different is the narrative if Bo Nix completes either one of these 2 and the Bengals are eliminated from the playoff? That's how thin the margins are. The margins have been thin for this team all year and usually gone the other direction. But, that's the difference between maybe praise that's being given and blame, saying, oh, the defense just couldn't get enough stops after what happened in the last drive of the game, and then maybe what could have happened there in overtime. They did, though, and they won, so we're not going to talk about that, except we are.
couple thoughts on this. So first of all, do you remember in May when the Reds were on that terrible run and they're like, you know what? Jacob Hurtubise in the leadoff spot is what's going to save the season and make the offense. And that never goes well. To me, that's the Marco Wilson story right now.
Yeah.
Marco Wilson, was their plan for Calvin Ridley on big downs? Was their plan for Jerry Jeudy on big downs? And he continues to be in feature spots as a cover man corner on huge, massive, high leverage downs. And well, he's been fine so far. Eventually, when you play that game with the waiver claim, who played the worst game I've ever seen from a corner when he played against the Bengals in week 5 last season, you're going to get burned. And Bo Nix didn't burn them, but that'll happen in the future. DJ Avi, I will give the benefit of the doubt to. Allowed one catch all year, and that catch was basically a conceded third and super long. They were fine giving up the yards. I actually think he let the guy get open there for sure. I do trust DJ in that spot. I don't trust Marco Wilson in that spot. So your thesis is Bo Nix played a bad game in high leverage moments. I completely agree. To me, that was the story of the whole first half, because in some ways, like Mike Hilton, what a game by Mike Hilton. Yeah. But Bo just had no answer. Whenever Mike Hilton would blitz, he'd just bail on the play. And I've got right in front of me like all the first, second, and third downs of the stops in the first half. And I'm seeing Mike Hilton blitzes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 plays where a Hilton blitz leads to a stop. Bo Nix just had no comfort or awareness. We just talked about Burrow shredding the blitz and making Vance Joseph regret it. What were the Broncos doing on the sideline? They've got Mike Hilton blitzing over and over, and they can't figure a way to have Bo confident in the pocket when the Bengals send that. So that's another, fuel to that flame. The one thing I do want to give credit to, the Jermaine Pratt pick was just a perfect rep. Even the detail of Cam Taylor-Britt blitzing for the second time all season, kind of creating some headaches in there, forcing Bo to speed up. Jermaine Pratt, perfect, I think like Tampa 2 or whatever you want to call it, type technique, dropping in front of Sutton on the cross. Great job there. But aside from that, it wasn't crazy plays by the defense, aside from, giving Mike Hilton credit for what he did, and then the Jermaine Pratt pick as well. And I keep going back to this, like, what a game, right? But it was a very hard win. Best case scenario for the Bengals, let's just say theoretically, you're the number 2 seed, first round game at home. Well, that's the Broncos at home. The easiest possible playoff scenario is the Broncos coming to your place as the 7 seed. And that's what it took to beat the 7 seed. And you still got some breaks go your way. And so that has me, I hate to play this game, but not having confidence still in the Bengals going into Buffalo, going into Kansas City. We'll see if they even get there. Probably not. The math is the math. But, while some incredible moments, still some unanswered questions about the defense.
Yeah, absolutely. One question that I have is against Pittsburgh is who will have more pass rush reps, Myles Murphy or Cedric Johnson? I mean, Cedric Johnson comes in, he chases down a sack, his first sack of his career. It's the second snap that he had in the game where you could almost feel Lou being like, maybe this guy can go do it, which we've seen him do plenty this year with a lot of guys. And he does. And then you see Cedric Johnson in the game a bunch. And I actually, maybe more than the sack, my favorite Cedric Johnson rep was the 4th and 1 heave. He takes on the block and spins out of it to get that pressure to force it to be the close your eyes heave that it ended up being, which is such a low percentage play. And, he's the one that applies that pressure, and his ability to just shake that off, showed off some of his athleticism, some of his burst. You see some of that stuff. And you just wonder, after we have another, just not a good day for Myles Murphy back here in terms of getting after the passer at all. He's just not on the field on third downs. He was only on for 2 third downs. They're just not even entertaining the thought anymore. And it says where it's at with him right now. I don't know, but then you see the juice that comes from Cedric Johnson, and I wonder against Pittsburgh what that rep distribution looks like.
I want to go back through this now, and you've inspired me to go back through this. So for the first thing I have in my notes here, and I was going to bring this up at the end, but the Cedric Johnson sack, the note that I wrote was brings a tear to the eye of Sam Hubbard and BJ Hill. What that was the Texas T game that they played for years, except it was Cedric and Myles Murphy. So Myles did have a significant role in helping spring Cedric Johnson free. Cedric Johnson on the Hail Mary, they forgot to block him, and there was pulling fullback was their plan against him. I'm still not in on Cedric Johnson as a rotational pass rushing piece. I still did see a couple power plays from Myles, but I don't have those written in my notes. That's just going off memory there. But regardless, wherever you want to put it, nowhere near enough. Again, shout out to Sed, but nowhere near enough production from that level of the pass rush, which even gets more important when you've had the season than the injury from Sam Hubbard. Osai's been great, but the lack of a pass rush was such a big part of the story the first game in Pittsburgh and will probably be a massive part again this coming week.
Yeah, I mean, Cedric Johnson had 5 pass rushes in this game, and he had 2 pressures in the sack. And the other one was the hit on Bo Nix. So, good for him. Miles Murphy with 14 pass rushes in this game and 0s across the board. But you're right. I mean, he's just not getting off of these blocks. Yeah. He's moving guys. He's pushing them. He just doesn't have the ability to disengage. And it's kind of the story. And the reps always tell the story, Charlie, as we know. And that's why we dive into the tape, because the reps always tell the story and the eye in the sky doesn't lie. And that's what we're here for, to say more cliches at you and see how far that can go. But no, this was good stuff. And maybe this will go on into the playoffs. I don't know. But Pittsburgh, comparing the tape from the first game to this game is going to be another fascinating dive when we get back into it next week for sure.
Paul, who starts at right tackle next week?
I mean, I'm going to assume that it's going to be you. I think you have to put Cody Ford over there, right?
I think you have to. Assuming Amarius can't play, which was definitely the hand's not going to heal in a week. And if
it's going to hurt the same way that it hurt last game. So if you couldn't do it in that game, you're not going to be able to do it a week later if it's a broken hand. I don't see that being the case. So to me, I get you. You worked all week to try to have Cody Ford in at guard. Cordell Volson is a better option than Devin Cochran. I'm sorry, I don't care. If we're talking
Devin Cochran plays like he has a rock in his shoe that he's trying to shake loose.
Last week we got the gallops like a horse. I think both of these work appropriately. But yeah, I would say you have to go to Cody Ford at right tackle and Volson back at guard. I mean, it's Volson he's played a lot of snaps for you. Devin Cochran has, for good reason, not played a lot of snaps for you, and it's just not good enough. So if that's the case, and then that's under the assumption that Orlando Brown's going to be able to go back out there on his broken fibia fused bone thing, and can go do that again on one leg. And so good luck. By the way, TJ Watt's all you got to worry about on the other side. So don't worry.
I mean, the guy on the left side are the one who got, who owned that game when Brown couldn't move the first time. Another question, guys, we wrap up here. Did you learn anything about the no Chase Brown offense as you watched Khalil Herbert try to run around in there? Better than I thought, but
I didn't mind Khalil Herbert. I actually thought he made a couple of plays. He's a different style, clearly. I mean, he's more got the side to side stuff going on. And I don't mind it. Like I it could have been worse. I mean, I think Chase Brown is still clearly like great. I mean, and you wouldn't take him off the field. But that said, I think he built some comfort. I mean, he made a couple of plays there that were big in the game, and I don't have a huge problem with what we saw from Khalil Herbert. He was okay. He even got a couple of licks in when he had to throw a couple of, whether it was a chip or whatever.
I'm just thinking, if he can't go and you can't trust the run game, and you have Ford at right tackle, let's say, and Orlando Brown dealing what he's dealing with, and like that to me was kind of the story of overtime too. It's all right, Burrow, Chase, and Higgins, and then Herbert and Brown on one leg, and Kappa bad season, and Ford at left guard having maybe the worst game Cody's ever played, and Cochran at right tackle. I mean, this is really a 3-man offense right now, and they're going to have to do it again. Maybe potentially we'll see with Brown and Mims and Brown this week, but they might have to do it again on the road against an even better defense and a stronger defensive line. Let's see how far 3 players can lead you.
Yeah, we will. And then we will rewatch it and we will tell you what we saw next week with Charlie. Make sure you're following Charlie, Charlie G with 2 underscores, and make sure that you are also getting the chalkboard. Great stuff coming off of all these games, and you just need it. You need it in your life. I don't know what else to say. By now, you've listened to all these episodes. You're like, this stuff's great. I need more of it. Go follow Charlie and you'll get it. All right. Thanks, Charlie. We'll talk to you next week.
See you.